The Twilight series is officially on Netflix, so it's time to rank all 5 of the Twilight movies from worst to best. Welcome to my channel. My name is Justin. Here we focus on your favorite content from streaming services and in theaters. If you guys love to watch movies and shows like I do, you guys are in the right spot. Consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It's been a while since I've seen the Twilight films. I saw each one in theaters once. That's the only time I've ever seen them. But my wife and I went back and watched all 5 of these films leading up to this ranking video and the release of them on Netflix. So before we get into my ranking video, leave your ranking down below. How would you rank all 5 Twilight films from worst to best? These aren't my favorite films of all time, but I did have fun watching these movies with my wife. Coming in 5th place is New Moon. I appreciated what this film was trying to do while bringing in more of Jacob, who is a wolf, and a little more conflict between the werewolves and the vampires. I like the shift in here, focusing more on Jacob and Bella rather than Bella and Edward. My problem with New Moon, the first film set up Edward and Bella, and now Edward is sulking around for most of the film because he's only in the beginning and the end of the film. He's sulking around and doesn't really contribute much to the movie. So we focus a lot on Jacob and Bella. They don't have the best chemistry. I mean, everybody's performances in here are just bland. Kristen Stewart is a really good actress, but just every single movie in here is just like she's not even there. There's just no emotion behind it. But Taylor Lautner, on the other hand, I feel like he does a pretty good job in this movie. This was kind of starting the Team Edward, Team Jacob movement. I just never felt like they had a relationship that was strong enough to be even considered in New Moon. So the lack of Edward in here, I think really hurt this film. I haven't read any of the books, but I think it was one of the weakest parts of New Moon. Coming in 4th place is Twilight. This is probably the most boring film of them all. It set up Bella and Edward, and when they saw each other, they immediately fell in love. Robert Pattinson, much like Kristen Stewart, is very good. He's broken out of the Twilight Saga. So is Kristen Stewart. They're both really good. Just in this movie, they don't give any emotion to anything. You don't feel like they are in love. Everything's just so cheesy. The dialogue is just way over the top. Like I said, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how the dialogue is compared to the book, but they just don't deliver anything really exciting or romantic within this film. I do like the kind of the mystery of the vampires within this film, and watching Bella kind of react to it and learn things about Edward, the person that she's madly in love with. As a personal film for Bella and Edward compared to the other films, it's on a much smaller scale compared to what happens in Breaking Dawn, Part 1 and 2, and Eclipse. It's a more personal story that sets up the relationship, the eventual, marriage and child that they have. So it starts off the series at times good, at times it's just very corny and the dialogue's cheesy and you just don't feel like they're in love. Coming in 3rd place is Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. This film has probably for me the worst moment of any Twilight film, and that's at the end when they have the Volturi and the wolves and all of the vampires coming together for this really epic fight. I remember seeing it in theaters and thinking, oh my god, this is kind of cool. Probably the coolest thing I've seen in a Twilight film. And then Alice says that this is your future, and this is what happens if you attack us. And then just wastes everything prior. My wife said, well, that's how it's in the book. And I think that the book should have changed it. Because it really just ripped it all away. Just made that big fight pointless. And then we have Mackenzie Foy in here as Renesmee, the daughter of Edward and Bella, and a CGI baby that looks absolutely terrible. I understand that the baby is growing up pretty fast, and they try to make the baby look the same, so they don't want to have to cast all these actresses to play the role of Renesmee. It's just really off. It's so noticeable, especially a scene when Edward is introducing the baby to Charlie, Bella's father, and it just looks really bad. I think that the big plot in here surrounding the daughter and how Jacob imprinted on her, I think was something worth watching, and I think that it was something new, kind of breaking away from Bella and Edward's relationship and focusing on something else. And that's what Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Eclipse did fairly well, is kind of shifting away from the relationship and focusing more on other vampires and wolves as well. But there's a lot of urgency surrounding the Volturi coming and protecting Renesmee, and she's this immortal child, so there's a lot of fear surrounding that as well. I feel like it was a decent way to end the series, despite that terrible fight in the end of the film. Coming in second place is Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1. This was an interesting film. And like I said, I don't love all of the films. They're not my favorite films of all time. And, you know, I've grown up over the years just thinking, oh my God, Twilight is like the worst thing ever. Yeah, the acting is, and some of the dialogue and writing is. What I liked about Breaking Dawn Part 1, you're starting to see the consequences of Bella in this relationship. Everything up until this point has kind of been, you know, cute and innocent. They never really thought of the big picture. And that's kind of how typical relationships run. When you're younger and you're in high school, you just think of everything as all sweet and perfect. And then hardships come. And she has a baby. But this baby, she's still human, but this baby is sucking all of her blood. And starting to kill her. That really urgent scenes. There's a lot of urgent scenes in here that make this film, which I think is almost 2 hours, feel pretty quick. Protecting Bella at all costs do lead to some character development, honestly, for Edward and Jacob. They kind of come to this understanding that they have to protect Bella. And up until this film, they've had this huge conflict and they've hated each other because they both do love Bella. And so watching them come to this agreement does provide something new for the Twilight films, because I honestly never expected that they would kind of come to this understanding and they would want to protect Bella. But it does provide for some endearing moments, and you really see how much Jacob really does care about her, as all the wolves want to attack the Cullens and this baby because of Bella being a human and they want to protect her. So Breaking Dawn Part 1, there was a lot of sweet moments with Bella and Edward and their wedding, and seeing everybody kind of come together for that. And then the more drastic moments coming out with her being pregnant, the baby taking her life, and watching her slowly die. And then all of the moments surrounding Jacob and Edward. But coming in first place for me is Twilight Eclipse. This is the third film in the series, and I like the constant conflict between the wolves and the vampires. Like I said, the first film is more of that love story before the two, and then the second one was Jacob mostly in the film, and this one's really Jacob and Edward, and that's when the Team Jacob, Team Edward came out. And I remember that going into the theaters. I remember being asked when I went to go see this movie in theaters, asked by the usher if I was Team Edward or Team Jacob, and I didn't know how to respond to it because I just did not care. But I would go with Team Edward. Jacob and her never seemed like they were going to be together. But the big plot in here is that a lot of people were being killed in Seattle by vampires, and they were creating this group of new vampires, and the new vampires are more dangerous than regular vampires to the wolves, so the wolves want to get involved as well and help protect Bella at all costs. So there's a lot of good action in here that's not fake. It actually did happen in the movie, so I did appreciate that. I really did like the plot in here, and the more development for Jacob, and more Jacob in here, and Jacob and Edward butting heads in here, and obviously having Edward a lot more in here rather than the second film. And Bella still wants to become a vampire, People are trying to persuade her to not become a vampire, and so she kind of has to make this decision, and Jacob's trying to persuade her not to become a vampire. With the action and having all of the bad vampires in here, I thought it was a pretty entertaining Twilight film. Like I said, these aren't perfect films, and I felt like this ranking video, I said a lot of good things about these movies. I did enjoy watching the series, and I will acknowledge that the writing is terrible, the acting is like non-existent, and the dialogue is so cheesy. Everything just feels way over the top, and you really don't feel like anybody is in love with anybody in this film. But I enjoyed watching the series. I know it's gonna be really popular on Netflix, and it was fun to revisit these films. I definitely have a different opinion about these films compared to when I first saw them. I remember seeing the first film when I was in 11th grade with my girlfriend at the time, and I saw every single movie in theaters. And now watching them, they're not as bad as I thought they were. So there you guys have it, all 5 Twilight films ranked worst to best. How would you rank these films? Let me know in the comment section down below, and we're looking forward to checking them out on Netflix. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.